Michigan fans and friends, we're ready to get things underway on this Monday. I don't want to overdo it, but it's a great Monday to be alive. We've got Jim Scarcelli on the screen and ready to go and ready to talk about Michigan football. That should fire you up, where people are ready to button up their chin straps and run through the wall. Scar, you got to run through some walls. You got to get the guys, even in the off season, you got to whip them up into a frenzy sometimes and get them ready to go.
You know, Denny, that's what really Schembechler's strength was. That's coaching. You know, coaching is, it's easy to get a guy fired up to run out in front of 110 on national team. That's easy.
Yeah.
Coaching is like, get a guy fired up to go into the weight room on a day like today, maybe after school, or you know, some schools getting out, or you know, and have a great workout. That's coaching. That's the guy that can motivate. You know, when other guys are going to the beach, and you got to go down there and lift. You know, who's the guy that can motivate that? But Denny, it's an amazing. I just thought about this. It's amazing how timing is so important in life. I look at, you know, a college football player with this settlement now, the 20 mil settlement. The guys that are, you know, maybe you can correct me, the guys that are coming out like next year, they're not going to be as much money for them. There's not going to be no $12 million Underwood type deal. Or on the other end, look at the guys that played. I think it's cut off at 2014. 2013 gets nothing, right? I think they went back 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess the point I'm trying to make is the timing of, you know, there's a 10-year block that guys are going to get paid that played in the past. And now, as we move forward here, there's now a limit. There's a salary cap, going to be a salary cap on what these guys can get. So anyway, the timing, we went from free for all, unlimited, to now we have some structure, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, I think that last part, we'll see how it plays out, because if there was a hard cap, then there would be a lot of lawsuits forthcoming. You have a cap, and we're going to get to it with the about $20 million that can be distributed, but you still have NIL. It does have to go through a clearinghouse. I don't know if there's a 5-star quarterback out there and Jolin says, look, I'm going to give him $10 million. I don't know what the clearinghouse is going to say, like, oh, that's too much. How much ever it would be, then that would be a cap. So I'm still thinking that NIL is going to be unlimited when it comes down to the clearinghouse. I don't know how they can.
Well, from what I'm, you know, we're trying to read this and figure it out. I was just reading, CBS had something. Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, was trying to circumvent them rules so that they had more money in NIL. And the NCAA is pushing back. They want to have some type of framework that you know, gets everybody on a similar playing field, and everybody's going to try to figure out how they can maximize. You know, Michigan's got a lot more avenues to draw money from. You know, how can we maximize it? That's what our coaches and athletic director is going to try to figure out.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. The first thing that I think of is that I don't want it to go back to previous to NIL, where teams were like, yeah, we don't care what the rules are. We're still going to pay people. And if ever, you know, so then people are abiding by the salary cap and an NIL salary cap, but then there's going to be about 10 to 20 rogue schools that are like, hey, we'll still pay you whatever you want. We'll just do it without anybody looking. Now, if they draw up some rules and have some collective bargaining agreement where you can really hit them and come back on it, you know, that's going to be, but right now, I don't, you know, it's not going to, they're going to have to do that before, you know, they put any cap in there. They'll get sued on that. But if they collectively bargain for it, and maybe that's so. There's a lot, you know, to talk about with it. And we have it right there up on the screen. We are going to get to, with all of these rules, you're going to tell us how you feel like Michigan can still stay on top with everything that's out there. We have another installment. It's my favorite. I mean, I like all the things that you do, Scar, and I appreciate your opinion. You know, you're a former player. You've actually been down there. You've coached for a hell of a long time, administrator, coach, all throughout that. So you know about all that stuff, but I like the film. You get in there. I just sit back here and, try to, just like everyone else, pick up what you're laying down. But we are talking about this house settlement. And just for people, I think most people know, but before we get to that, we did have the news over the weekend, and that was with Michigan, and they were in Indianapolis, and they were meeting with the NCAA Friday and Saturday in Indy. And what was a little bit of it was a big surprise to me is that Connor Stallions, who we have a picture of up on the screen, he was also in Indianapolis. He's wearing, looks like a maize tie. So you think, he's not going to blow the whistle on Michigan or cut any kind of deal. He's wearing a maize tie. So he's going to stay loyal to the maize and blue. I mean, that's what I take out of the picture there. Do you have any thoughts on Michigan versus the NCAA over the weekend, Friday or Saturday?
Danny, I'm going to just stick with my beliefs that Ward has been in discussion with the NCAA for a long time. They seem to believe and give credibility to Ward Manuel. They named him to lead that committee, so they have to have some type of respect for the guy. And he instituted these. He suspended our coach for a couple games. He's done things to punish Michigan. Those things correlate in my mind that, okay, he's done some things. They're going to punish. Jim got punished. They got punished that year. These things happen, and that I just believe that, and I think, and I do believe Josh Henschke put some things out that, and Josh is pretty tuned in that our punishment is going to be enough. So I'm standing by. That's my prediction. That I don't have any more information. I'm just going by trying to connect some things together. Josh's input, how I see what Ward has done. I think we're going to be over and done with the punishment that we have.
Yeah, and if I had to characterize what Josh and what the Maize Blue Review feels about Stallions and whatever might come out of this versus the NCAA is that, no games vacated and no postseason ban. And so the other stuff, when you're talking about a suspension of more, what the recruiting restrictions would be, people seem to blow that off like, it's nothing. It could be something. And I would just put an example up of Zion Robinson, the 6'4" wide receiver out of Texas, who says he is going to make an announcement at the end of July, and he likes Michigan, Stanford, TCU, and Miami. And I don't know where he's going to go, but when you look at the Committee on Infractions, they have 45 days now to rule. And so I don't know if you take the 23 days left in June, and then you have 22. So that's around July 22nd. If part of the restrictions is that Sharon or they can't have in-home visits, well, I would think, that would be a week where Robinson would be opening up the doors and people would be coming in. So that could, Michigan, that could hurt Michigan on the recruiting trail. So, but we have to wait and see. Speculating, we just do a little bit of that about how it could hurt. But I see a lot of people that say, doesn't matter. Recruiting restrictions won't matter. Just throw bags at people. And that's how it could.
Danny, to be honest with you, I had all the home visits from all the coaches, but, the days of Zoom now, they kind of, I get it. There's other options that it's not as crushing that you can't even communicate with people. So,
what I could add, and there's nothing that I don't know if no news is good news, because I think if the news came out and you saw specifically that there was not going to be vacated games or a postseason ban, which is expected, well, that would be good news. But seeing it and having it official would be good news. And then weighing through whatever the recruiting restrictions and a fine would be, that would be good news. So
the sooner the better. The sooner the better for Michigan is get it over, get it done, and let's figure out where we're at.
The other thing, to your point, is if that, Ward's in good standing. He's and it's a separate thing, but he's up there, and and the college football. He's running the college football playoff. He's the spokesperson for the selection committee and all of that. So, yeah, you would think. I was hoping that they were going to have a negotiated resolution, and this weekend was just going to be a formality. And so I hope that they don't go all 45 days, because then I feel like they're, the chess pieces are still moving and there's some disagreement, and that Michigan might have to fire back and all that. So the sooner the better right now, to me, when it comes down to all of that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would just say one more thing. Somebody told me I was speculating why Stallions would be there, and I saw people saying, "Oh, it doesn't really matter. That's neither good or bad news." And I'm thinking, really? It's not going to the point man on the signs being there is neither good news or bad news. I'm thinking that he's trying to save himself some face, where now he's going to answer some questions about, okay, this is what I did, this is what I didn't do. And I was talking with someone, and I said, well, why wouldn't he have done this before? Why did he wait? And that person's response to me was the person that got him on the central sideline is no longer up in Mount Pleasant. And so now he might be willing to say, okay, that was me. Even though everybody knows.
Denny, Connor Steins is different than Jim Harbaugh and the other guys that are not coaching college. I believe Steins wants to coach college football. Right. He wants to be involved with college football. Yes. So he has to go there and stand up and show up, and he can't hide. If they asked him to come, it's not like, those other guys are, coaching in the NFL and they just whatever. You know what I mean? But I think Stallions wants to be in college football eventually.
Well, if we take him for his word, he wants to, take Michigan into the 21st century and one day be, Jim Harbaugh and Bo all wrapped up in the one, and he's the one that has the headset on.
That's why he can't avoid it. He's not like he's working in some other profession.
Correct. Now, you mentioned the House settlement, and so you're going to get over $20 million. The schools are going to get over $20 million to pay to the players directly. Now, Michigan didn't say how the money was going to be distributed, but Georgia actually did come out, and they gave a model of what they're going to do, Scar. And they said that they're going to give 75% of the money of the over $20 million to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and then 5% to other. Now, whatever you want to say, this doesn't seem like this seems like a pretty straightforward model that I think maybe a lot of teams would look at. Would you want to up or down the percentages?
There's all kinds of wiggle room based on what you want to do. If I'm Vanderbilt and I'm in the SEC, am I going to be able to compete with these guys? I might just say, I want to have a great basketball team, or I want to have great, baseball or some other women's sports.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you could really compete. So those are going to be decisions that a president, an athletic director, and, they're going to have to decide what they want to do. And that looks like a good model. But the thing that really stands out to me, it looks really good. But the other women's sports, women's volleyball is a draw. People watch women's volleyball. People watch women's softball. Why would women's basketball get money and those other sports are on TV? So anyway, I get it. Football is the breadwinner, and you've got 105 players now that are going to want something. They're all on scholarship. There's some upsides here. Okay, the downside, no more walk-ons. That's a downside. There's those guys, those opportunities are not there anymore. But the upside is there's 20 more guys that are on scholarship. So that's gonna, that's throughout all of college football, throughout the whole country. That's a lot of guys that get opportunities. 20 times how many teams there are in the country.
Yeah, it's interesting. Football is such a revenue sport. I just started thinking, if I'm Kentucky, I'm not giving 75% football and 15 just to basketball. I might even, I don't know about flipping that, but I want a powerhouse. Kentucky's known for basketball. Oh, Michigan State. Are they going to just say, just 15% for Tom Izzo, or is he going to be able to get a little bit more because they like, basketball so much in East Lansing? Yeah, I don't know. And you're right about, I wondered, and I don't know the answer to this. I thought that Title IX, I thought that they were going to take, if it's just a little bit over 10 or 20 million, I thought that you were going to have to dedicate 10 million right off the top to women's sports to make it Title IX, but I don't know why they don't have to do that. So they were able to work around that. That seems like a lawsuit waiting to happen, but what do I know?
Yeah, well, they're not producing the revenue. That 20 million is from television and from all the other things that the revenue producing sports brought in. So,
well,
yeah, that 20 million per team, Denny, you've got to be really good with your money. You've got to be smart and how you delegate it and what you run, your scheme that you run. Again, I talked about Army, Navy, Air Force. They run different stuff. They don't need Bryce Underwood. You know what I mean? They're going to win in a different style of football. There's different schemes and styles that you can run that might minimize the importance of a quarterback or a different type of quarterback that's not as marketable. So there's a lot of factors that go in there. What else did I have here? Just like wrestling. You mean tell me wrestlers aren't going to get nothing? Baseball players are going to get nothing? So anyway.
They can still get NIL, right? They could. Well,
that's going to be the thing, and Danny, that's something that I also read, that these guys are in a hurry right now. All of college athletes right now are in a hurry to get whatever NIL contract agreement with whoever, whenever. They're trying to get it signed as quick as possible before some of this legislation comes in and squeezes it or puts limits on it. So
that's why I wondered if Michigan and they knew that this part was coming, and then the House settlement that just happened was supposed to happen last month. There was the idea that you could, if you got in before they settled, they weren't going to be able to take that money from you or take the money from the kid. Well, why wouldn't you splurge and just start throwing stuff around? And there were some people, and I don't know where it comes from, that Michigan wasn't. And one side, I heard people say, well, Michigan's not really putting any specific numbers out. But then I would ask our recruiting guy, what about Sadler? You're telling me they're, Sadler's, calling up and oh, no, well, they're going to talk numbers with Sadler. So I don't know. There was like, somebody's like, no, Michigan's not putting any numbers out. Well, they got a 5-star running back coming in next week, Hyder, before this, were they not prepared to talk, money with him? Why were they even in on Jackson Cantwell at all if they weren't prepared to talk money with him? Yeah. So I don't know.
That's why those guys are, they might be a year late, man. So, to get that stuff signed. But anyway, how does Michigan stand out, Denny? If they eventually get some type of a salary cap deal, everybody's going to want to try to figure out and circumvent the rules. Is it going to be get back to NIL, legitimate NIL? You have to validate it. How are you? How is this company utilizing you? That kind of thing. Is that what we're going to get to, where it's not just Joe Lynn cutting a check, but that's how does Michigan stand out so Sharon Moore can recruit and Dusty can recruit with the strength of Michigan over someone like Indiana, Purdue, that doesn't have the resources we have.
Well, couldn't I argue that Underwood's worth every penny in NIL if he could just sign some footballs and he could make appearances on behalf of Michigan at whatever, at different charity events and all kinds of different things. They have a lot of different sponsors. He could meet those people, or they could come up and they could see him. I could say that he would be worth every penny. I could make that case.
Yeah, I saw EA Sports. They're going to pay and distribute money. They're not just going to give everybody in the Big Ten the same amount of money. Right. If Michigan is the number one game that people are playing, in EA Sports, if it's the most used, they're gonna distribute money based on which team is the most popular. So that's NIL money, just flat out, and they're going to have an easy formula to figure it out. No, man, they're not playing Purdue. The kids are playing Michigan, versus Oregon or versus Ohio State. Those are the teams they're playing. So we don't have a lot of answers, but I know our coaches are figuring out how can we get the edge, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do we get the advantage? to utilize NIL, utilize Michigan.
Yeah, Ferris is all ears on your elaborate plan to make Michigan the greatest college football team of all time. Well, I would imagine that when you're recruiting, I would bet, without looking at any of the numbers, that Michigan is one of the top 5 teams that are played in the ACC.
Well, my answer and my plan, other than great coaching and great unit, all the stuff that we've had for 100 years, is how can we maximize NIL better than the enemy? How do we have more legitimate? Because it sounds like it's going to have to be honest, legitimate, NIL stuff that is proven. But Denny, I read this. You talk about Title IX. I don't know how this comes into Title IX, but I have to believe that there's a kid at Princeton, basketball player, really good player. He happens to be Asian, maybe part Asian. He's an Asian kid. He's going to Miami Hurricanes. Good player. So he's a legitimate good player, but he signed like a $3-4 million deal with some shoe company. I think it's in Asia, this shoe company. You follow me? So the fact that he's Asian, I believe, helped him as a marketable kid for this shoe company that's in Asia. So I don't know how that plays into Title IX, but it's not that he's a man or a woman. It's that he's Asian.
Yeah, I'm going to guess until they get a collective bargaining agreement that I could make a case. Michigan has connections in movies and productions, and they've got the largest alumni base. I always hear that. I would imagine that you could say that Bryce Underwood could, in the off season, he could star in a movie, and how much money you're getting paid as an actor. They get paid tons of money. So I would think that you'd be able to.
Yeah, that's something USC. We're going to have a hard time competing with USC there, Dave.
Yeah, well, right. That's USC. Pete Carroll used to have everybody down on the sideline. And
Snoop Dogg and
pre-NIL. Yeah, pre-NIL, they were still getting money over there. Yeah. Reggie Bush, they'd pop up with a house for him. Hey, everybody's like, give him back his Heisman.
Anyway, that's we got to figure it out, man. Our coaches have to figure it out.
Yeah, well, I think that Michigan's in a great position because they're one of the halves. If I'm somebody like Eastern Michigan down the road and they're thinking about $20.5 million, how are we coming up with that? Well, we're 20.5. I don't know if they could come up with 2.5 or even 1.5 if they needed to pay players. So there's going to be a lot of schools that are scrambling and thinking, yeah, we can't pay anybody anything. We don't have the money. But Michigan's one of the halves. And if it comes down to any wiggle room with NIL and any kind of clearinghouse there, they've got so many different people in different spots that they should be right near the top with anyone.
Yeah, but Denny, what was the payout? What was the payout from the television contracts for each Big Ten team? They got all these different networks. They get
a lot of money.
A lot of money. The Big Ten network's paying everybody. That's
right. They get
we're on Fox, we're on CBS, we're on all these different, and then they're adding games. You get 12 games and all these bowl games and the tournament. Games. Now they're adding 16 teams to the championship. So there's a lot of money out there, man. You don't be giving it to the field hockey player. Give it to the football guy because they're the ones that are playing extra games that people are paying to see.
You sound like Jim Harbaugh.
Well, damn right, man. We're from the same mindset, man. These guys are the ones grinding,
Yeah, that was the, there it is, the hashtag, hit the Borg. Let's go. All right, let's do it. I'm on it. Okay, so where are we at next? I wanted to tell everyone, you're following recruiting. I think, Michigan is in. I saw just right before I came on some smoke about a defensive end, a 4-star defensive end that people are looking good, that Michigan's looking good for. You want to know the real scoop on that and recruiting and official visits and NIL and what's going on with the NCAA. I mean, there's a lot going on there. You get it all in a nice format, and it's all in one spot with trusted voices. Go to the Maize and Blue Review today. You can join up, and you can get instant access by going to michigan.rivals.com. I encourage you to do that. It's a lot of fun, and you won't regret it 1 second. You want to know how you stay engaged, and we got to wait so long for football. It's like it's going on right now. You get so excited about it being on there. So there you go. That's it.
Hey, how about Woodson's kid? So Charles Woodson's kid, Denny, is a he's a good player. He's a recruited kid. But Bo was real big on bloodlines. Obviously, so if he coached a kid's dad or uncle or something, and he knew what type of kid he was, it was real important to him. Bloodlines. I haven't seen film of the kid. I imagine he's a good player, but if he was if he looked like an average player on film, there's people that might say, you know what, he's Woodson's kid. He's going to have work ethic. He's going to have attitude. He's going to be you know what I mean? He's going to be a team guy. You know what you're going to get. Even if the film doesn't, I don't know. I haven't seen his film, but that's what I'm saying. And anyway, I remember when Woodson was at the camp, Danny. I worked at Michigan camp. We had 3,000 kids there, but Woodson was one kid that I remember when he was at that camp. Boy, the coaches were they were rolling out the red carpet, and they did everything they could to. Everybody was aware because we would meet with the coaches every morning. All the different coaches would meet with them, and they said, we got this kid Woodson, and we really want this kid. But he was definitely on their board real high. I remember Drew Henson when he was at the camp, and Braylon Edwards. But anyway, Woodson's kid is he's offered. It's an interesting decision. What do those guys do? Do they want to follow their dad? My buddy Eric Caddis, his son is playing at Kentucky now. Eric played great tight end at Michigan, but his other son is going to Clemson. Because some guys, they let their kid blaze their own trail. So that's a big thing for a kid like Woodson's kid to follow in that kind of, he has to make his own mind.
Yeah, you just start thinking of how many of, and there's all these players that you just mentioned, and then there's the greatest of all time players, and then their kids. And I'm like Michael Jordan's kid. He ended up going to Illinois, right? He didn't go to North Carolina. He's the greatest. And I don't know, Barry Sanders' kid, where did he go, to Stanford? Yeah. He didn't go. So when you're talking about Woodson, and the other thing about Charles Woodson is he's got another son, Chase, a year or two behind Charles Jr. So, and you get another one. But somebody told me that Charles Woodson Jr. is the better of the two prospects than Chase, although, you're talking about a kid that might be a freshman in high school compared to somebody who's a junior or something, or maybe he's even in 8th grade. So, but some people can tell, about, athletic.
Yeah, but, every kid is different. What does he want to follow, dad's, where dad went and do all that and have to deal with that legacy. And it is what it is. Sean McGee is staying at Michigan. Sean has been the general manager, and, people were talking maybe Navy. But he's staying in Michigan, so that's got to be a good thing. Denny, I'll tell you something. I know coaches are looking at it because I know that's what I did when I was coaching, and I guarantee you our coaches have spent a lot of time looking at Washington State.
Yeah,
looking at their offense. They've got their offensive coordinator in Oklahoma, in Norman. They got the quarterback. I've seen Washington State play, and they're not coming with a fullback, okay, and they're not coming with 6 offensive linemen. So it'll be spread. It'll be 3 and 1. It'll be empty. It'll be 2 and 2. You won't see a ton of formations from Oklahoma, and our coaches will, they're working on it. There's everything they've seen from Washington State is what you're working on.
Thanks to Ted D for dropping a bag at NIL. And Ted, I put some of this NIL money back into the show. You'll have to look at some of my thumbnails. I'm just now have dropped a bag there. So you should see the improvement there. Any money will go back into the show that is put there. I know Oklahoma, I don't know if it's just the algorithm for TikTok, but I have everybody and their brother getting videos. David Pollock, he was on ESPN. Oh, Oklahoma, they're the Cinderella story of this year college football. I think they'll beat Michigan. He was saying, I was watching a video of him. Greg McElroy, John Mateer is the second best quarterback in the country. I just keep going through. I get Oklahoma, how great they're going to be. And then I get TikToks from Ferris, talking about how great Michigan's going to be, which is good. I like Ferris's TikTok. Smash the numbers.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to go into Norman with 4 receivers every down. We're going to have 3 tight ends and a fullback, and hopefully some good. Denny, I've been studying Chip, man. I took a closer look at Chip, our offensive coordinator. I really like this guy, man. There's things I didn't realize. He was a high school coach for about 10 years. I'm a little partial to high school guys because you have to you got to coach, and these guys come up with a lot of creative stuff. The average fan, they watch the NFL and they see them doing certain things. Wow, how smart were those guys? Look at the scheme they're running offensively. Well, they copied it from the college guys. And then I see the college guys, oh, wow, look what they're running. All this RPO stuff is hard to figure out. And look how they're doing this and that. And it's just tough schematics, good stuff. They get it. A lot of them steal it from high school guys, the college guys. Believe me, Denny, they do. Some of the greatest minds, you had the old Baylor coach. What was his name that got in trouble? Art Briles. And Gus Malzone was a high school. These guys come up with a lot of that stuff. Chip is from that line of thought. Okay, he worked for some of those guys. He coached Stidham, the kid that was at Baylor and then transferred to Auburn. He had this kid Mullins who was a good player. Anyway, he's coached some real good quarterbacks. And he's a schematic guy, Danny. So the more I study this guy, the more I like the hire by Sharon Moore, because listen, I know Sharon Moore in his heart, his foundation is Jim Harbaugh football. Okay, that's what he is. But I think he went out and got Chip and said, give me a little more spice. You know what I mean? And then at the same time, do a great job coaching our quarterbacks and this whole thing with his background in all the people and the type of schemes that he's coached. So, I'm more confident that Chip is going to do things to possibly outcoach people. We got to outcoach people too, Danny. We got to scheme people and fool people and deceive people. And when they face Michigan, when you face Michigan's offense, you want people to fear the hell out of our talent, and then at the same time have a sense that we don't know what the hell these guys are going to do, because they do a lot of stuff and they do it well. You know what I mean? So I'm believing that Chip, with his background, is going to be a guy that's going to have some pull some rabbits out of his hat and be a deceptive guy. That's what I want.
And Sharon Moore and Chip Lindsey, we'll see him down at the football office. They'll be made available, and I can see asking him questions about, hey, you going to let it fly with Bryce Underwood? I mean, you're going to air it out, some things like that. And I believe they'll come back. No, we're gonna run the football. But I think Sharon might say, yeah, we're gonna what a coach might say, we're gonna play to the strengths of our team.
Yeah, but Danny, you can listen. You can run the football. You can run the football and fool people too. You know what I mean? You can do things. It just doesn't have to be just vanilla formations all the time. You can shift and motion and give guys problems lining up. That's why everybody wanted that everybody wants to go to that Kansas tree right now, because that's what that guy's known for. That's why Penn State went and got that Kolonicki guy. People want guys because anybody can coach it with the best players.
Yeah.
Who's the guy that's going to line up and give you some bullshit that you can win with inferior talent?
My thought is, though, that with Underwood just being 17 years old, he's not going to turn 18 for another 2 months, that you got him up on the horse right away, that you only need, sure, you'd love him to be this, great prodigy and yeah, once in a while, let's go ahead. Let's see that arm. Let's air it out. How about just have him be serviceable until you get him acclimated and everything else? I I feel like that it's going to be the expectation is like, oh, this guy's a 1 in a million. He's a 1 in a million player. And I think people are feeling like he's going to be out there, just, being like some magic or something. And I think that maybe that's going to be the case. And maybe until we see him, fumble some balls, throw the ball to the other team, get some delay of games and like, oh, well, it's just a freshman quarterback. Well, then we'll have to wait before we see that. Until then, he's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, but then you can, as a coach, you can simplify. I had quarterbacks that couldn't throw it across the street, but you could still give a defense problems with some shifting and some formations and some things. You don't have to what I guess what I'm saying is, schematic, conflicting, deceptive stuff doesn't always have to be a headache for a young quarterback. You can make it real simple. You'll make it hard for the defense. Anyway, I'm just looking more and more confident as I've studied Chip.
Let me get this question in from you. It's kind of from left field, but it was something that we were talking about earlier. Ted is saying that Michigan needs to drop a back to secure Hyder. Savion Hyder is a running back, and Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio State. There's another team in there that I'm forgetting about, but maybe Texas. So, he's Georgia, I think, actually. Big time. Number 1, like 5-star. So they have their plan of how much they're going to give him and also the NIL. Are there certain players that, Scar, you're thinking maybe even you got to even go more, for a guy like that?
Yeah, you have to balance it out, man. These guys they know how much money they got. They got D linemen they got to get. They got secondary. They know what they're working with. And they're juggling the rules and the changing rule about to happen. So they're balancing and juggling a lot of things right now, Danny. What are the rules now? How much money do I have? I got these D linemen I need, or there's a big linebacker out there. So, yeah, it's just like balancing a budget at the house, man. You know what I mean? What do I want? A new couch or a new TV? Or am I eating steak or what am I doing? You know what I mean?
I want a pool and a Rolls Royce. Let's go.
That's one of my favorite Schembechler lines. Why he didn't go to Texas A&M. Yeah, I remember him saying this. You can only eat so much steak. That's what Bo said.
This was the guy that I was talking about before. There's a 4-star edge, Mikhail Blade, that people are excited about. So if you're a fan of recruiting, the possibility that Michigan may have pulled into the lead for Blade. I like that, an edge named Blade. It takes me back to I like Sword. Guys, names like that. Scar. That's a good.
We've had some good ones, man. Hutch, Ajabo, Josiah. We've had some good ones coming off the edge, Denny.
Yeah, having a great name, great football name is nice. And that if you're old enough, you had Keith Jackson saying, Sam Sword. You liked it like that. All right. The New Life is saying it's so hard to follow your dad when your dad was a legend. Thinking about Charles Woodson Jr. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, that's why, some guys just say, you know what, man, we're going to another school. You just, cut your own trail, man.
Scar, were you taken in by the French Open this week where, Ted's
I didn't take a peek. I watch Wimbledon. I watch usually once a year, man. That's it.
Yeah, but the way Alcaraz and now Sinner, this rivalry that was just born when the big three, even though Joker's still around, but, the other that dominated tennis for the last 10, 15 years and that were must see. And then it was like, well, there was a vacuum and you knew Alcaraz was there, but then now Sinner's there. And now, and of all places, to do it on the sacred clay of Roland Garros, that they didn't take it at all.
No.
All right. Okay. I was wondering about that. Not a whole heck of a lot else out there. Okay. How about the Michigan Panthers making the championship game?
Danny, I was talking to my buddy about this. I don't know how our listeners feel, but if it was 1975, 1970, I think spring football would do a lot better. Here's my theory. we have football that's going to start here in August.
Yeah.
And once it gets rolling, we will literally have football 7 days a week. We have the pros on Sunday. We got Monday Night Football. We got MAC ball and on Tuesday, Wednesdays, right?
Yeah.
We got more ESPN on Thursday night. We got Big Ten and CB. Everybody's on Friday. So we got football 7 days a week. And then you got 20, whatever, how many pro games, college. I think as much as I love football, Danny, I can't get myself to watch the spring league, man. I'm just tapped out. I've been watching too much football. It's time for basketball. I'm watching the NBA now, and I just cannot get into it. Some people do, but I think we're just so saturated from 4 or 5 months of just football 7 days a week.
I agree with you. It would be a little bit different when I was growing up. The Michigan Panthers had Anthony freaking Carter on their team. That's the greatest football player of all time. It's a little bit different when you've got Anthony Carter, out there and Herschel Walker's going and all of these big name guys. They're all out there from other guys that are just in there. The uniforms are cool. It's great. I was going to watch it, but I watched the Tigers early. So the 2-3 hours to watch the Tigers. And then I was going to watch the basketball. And my wife said, "Are you just going to watch 8 hours of TV today? Why don't you go outside?" And I said, "What, to get some fresh air with the smoke coming in from Canada?" And she said, "You know what I mean." So I didn't watch it. I could have watched it, but I thought, she's right. I'm watching 2 hours, 3 hours of tennis, 2 hours of soccer. It's not football season. Try something else. There you go.
12 weeks away, man. 12 weeks away.
Yeah, well, it's going to be Sam breaks it down. He says sloppy tackling by the Panthers. Oh, we'll see. Maybe the championship game would be something that I would take a look at. Well, you want to take a look at something. You want to be a star like Scar on the telestrator. To be able to do that, you go to Quick Cut Video and Analytics, and you sign up. It's your place to store, share, and analyze game film. Quick Cut, QWIKCUT, Video and Analytics. That's how you get it done. And, you can break down the games like Scar is getting ready to do. He's going to show us some more here, which I'll just say it one more time. I like watching it.
All right, Danny, you up and running here?
I am. I'm looking at, you got a bunch of numbers, 99, 54, a 6 and a 9 up there. Let's do
this 54. I keep turning on the tape, and he is damn good versus the run, man. Palepale. He's right here. And Kenka is a big tough kid too. Should be going to prom. And both of them are stuffing their dude. And Palepale makes a Kenny Grant type play here. Can you see which player he's going? You
should be able to see Palepale. He weighs 350 pounds.
Yeah, he's taking on. See how he's standing this guy up, Denny. You like to see guys playing at the line of scrimmage. There's no movement. That's just a dead. Our offense does not want that. But Kenka, Palepale, something going on there. That's good to see. 6 up here, 4th and 2. Good protection. I don't know that our running back went the right way, but this is a good throw, man. There's more and more of these. The more I watch this film, I was at the game live, and you don't get a good look at stuff. But the height of a 6'5" quarterback, Denny, there's different types of pass protection. Gap, zone, whatever you call it. The gap. If the line is blocking right, they're all stepping to the right. Normally, the back will block to the left. But I think we're a little screwed up here. We got the back blocking to the right. The line looks like they're stepping to the right. And we don't block this guy off the edge here. But Underwood, this is why I like this. There's some pressure. He has to make a quick throw. And it's, it's right on the money. Nice catch. And it's the big tight end, man.
Hoffman.
Yeah, this is great stuff, Danny. When we can split out guys, like we did this with Loveland, but when we have tight ends that you can split out that can also line up next to a tackle and block, and now you can split them out. Now you got something going. This kid's going to be a drafted player. He keeps improving, man.
Yeah, out of all of his throws, that one, he stayed pretty much in form on everything he was doing. On that one, he had to, like you said, he had Cole Sullivan beating down on him, so he had to kind of move his body in a different way and pump that one out of there pretty quick. Yeah. I liked it.
Protection was good, but again, the back went the wrong way. I like this Sullivan kid. There's some real competition there with Rolder, Sullivan, Hausman. Sullivan is punching, coming off, making plays. He reads well. It looks like he'd be a smart kid. And I let's see, 54. I got 54 circled again. What did he do here? See how he's punching and coming off? That's what you want to see, Denny. You want to see guys play at the line of scrimmage. You want to see defensive linemen punching. See how he's walking this guy back right here? Throw him away and come off and make a play. See how he's coming off it?
What's Wink saying in the film room?
Well, that's what you want. That's what they want. They talk about gap and a half, right?
Yeah.
That's a terminology that Wink coaches. McDonald, Minter, and what that means is this: they all have a gap. They're all lined up right now and have a gap. Okay, so he has to play his gap, and his gap is the A gap inside the garden center. So he's punching into the inside of the guard. Okay, so he's playing his gap, which is really hard. It's just hard to play your own gap. And now this is a Mason Graham type play when you can punch and throw the guy off and still help out on another gap. You follow me?
Yeah.
That's hard to do, man, Danny, because this kid here, who's the left guard? Who is this guy? I can't see that number.
Is it 60 or 50? It's a bar.
Well, whatever it is, but he's a highly recruited 300-pound kid that's been in the weight room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard to just take a dude and then throw him and make a play. That's it's a little picked up a couple yards, but it's a good play and it's a tough play to make.
Luke Hamilton, that was.
Yeah. Anyway, here's some protection. But here's the downside, Denny, of that you sometimes when you have the big 300-some pound, and this is what Mason Graham and the great one with the Rams, Aaron Donald, that's what everybody's looking for is the one technique and the three technique that can play that double team like he just played, or play the inside football, then also rush the quarterback. And see, this is the stuff where he's not giving you much.
I'll tell you what, later in the game, he made he flooded in on the quarterback. I remember seeing it.
Yeah. No, he did. He did. But I'm watching all these guys here. This
was my favorite series of the game because they get down here and then we see two passes, actually three into the end zone. I thought that was kind of a ticky-tack call.
I just like how this ball is, only his ball is a pretty, there's really no separation, but only our guy can catch it.
What's Metcalf have to do? Turn his head there, or did he lose the ball?
Try to get some separation. It's not much of a.
I thought he played good defense there. I have to ask Lamar Morgan what he thought of that one.
All right, what's the down and distance? 1st and goal. Here's Chip throwing the ball, 1st and goal.
Yeah, there you go, Chip. Router.
That ball's catchable ball.
Oh yeah, he should have had this ball. When you're a big time wideout, you want the ball down to the end zone. You're 6'5", catch it.
Yeah, Denny, is this Bennett down here? Who's this guy right here? Is that Keyshawn Bennett? Because he's getting a little pressure. He's playing for UCLA next year.
Oh, is that right? Well, okay.
I think that is Bennett. Anyway, that's a catchable ball. So he's throwing the ball where our guy can get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's 2nd and goal. I got some question marks on these three players. 42, he will block. And they're just moving dudes out of there. That's not good. That's not good football. So this player here is way too high. Then you're on the 2-yard line. What the hell? Get low. I think that's 52, I think, right?
Yeah.
But these two guys are screwed up. This player is way too high right here. You're on the damn 2-yard line. And then these two guys should be one should be on the dive and the other should be on the quarterback. And we're just not, they're both reading. He should be coming here, killing this dive back. Why are you reading? And he should be on the quarterback. It's not done right. See how they're screwing around?
Yeah.
They got the right defense called, but there's confusion.
Yeah.
And this is why, you're on the 2-yard line. You can't be reading stuff. The dude's got to be playing fast down here. So he should be killing that dive and he should be on the quarterback. That's how I would coach that.
I think that's what Wink said to him. I could just see it. You don't.
Yeah, he gives you neither. This guy's taking neither, and this guy's taking neither. So we got nothing but a touchdown. But I don't know. Was that from formation? Why are we screwed up?
Cole Sullivan.
This Strayhorn kid is supposed to be in high school too. So he's 50. What number is Strayhorn? 55? 75. He does some decent things. 75 is a tough kid, man. I watched that kid do some things. We'll look at some of these plays. He's supposed to be in high school too.
He engaged Palepale pretty good there on that run.
Yeah, we recruited Kanka and Gach and
good class.
Yeah, okay. 97 is a tough kid. I've watched him in practice. I watched this kid. He's a big athletic kid. He beats the hell out of this guy here. 88's too damn high. But you see, Denny, how you can't have one guy good and the other one bad. They both have the same responsibility. They both are, he's a B gap player and he's outside contain. He's a C gap player. He's a B gap. They both have the exact same responsibility. Play your gap. And what happens? 97 is beating the hell out of his guy, right? But 88's getting pushed off the ball. Now you got a problem. Now you have a seam. You got all kinds of, 88 has got to, he's got to get heavier, man. I see he's a 6'7" kid. And this is 75. This is his true freshman. So this is a good block by Strayhorn. He shows some toughness. He shows some feet. So, 88's a big, tall kid. He's got to get lower.
He had a nice rep in this game. I don't know.
Yeah, when you told, I was 6'5". I'm 6'5", and it's hard. This game is a game of leverage, but you got to really get guys down low. Wink has brought him number 2, the true freshman. What the hell's his name? Earls. He brought him off the edge. He reminds me of Dak Hill.
That's good.
I mean, he's a true freshman, and he's going to learn how to do it and get better at it.
That was nice, right? That he hunted down the ball there.
Yeah, well, he's coming off the edge. He's unblocked, and you get good. There's no movement here. It's good for our defense, not good for our offense. But Wink has a stunt. He times it up, and there's really nothing there. I really like Gach. I just see him as a tough, nasty kid. I think he's going to have a good career at Michigan. 74.
Yeah.
Right guard. I just see him finishing blocks. And Denny, there's a lot of fights in practice. And this is what causes a lot of fights. And it is what it is, man. You want to play to the echo of the whistle, And you watch 74.
Staying on the pile, is that what it is?
So, you want to block to the echo of the whistle, the echo of the whistle, and he's blocking and moving his feet, and he knows the coaches are seeing this film, but he's just still blocking. You see?
Yeah.
and hammer dudes into the ground. And then sometimes defensive players get pissed off. 83, I've taken a closer look at he's gotten bigger and he's blocking better.
Zach Marshall.
Yeah, I was not he's shown some physicalness that I've taken a closer look at him as a blocker. In 76, Denny, this Beigel kid, again, you got to look at who he's playing against, but what year is Beigel a sophomore?
Yes.
He's shown some good things in this scrimmage too. Look how he's beating the hell out of 43 here. Watch Beigel here, Denny. This is what you want to do. You want to play on their side of the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's just pounding the hell out of this kid. He's taking that tackle tight end and just stuffing him. See where he's playing?
Yeah.
See where everybody else is playing? Coaches see that. Now you got to come off it and make a play. He almost makes the play. And I really like 45. I think he's going to be working in with Bredesen.
That's the true freshman.
45 is a true freshman?
Eli Owens.
He's going to be a good player. He's that's what they want at that position. He's a fullback / tight end. They got the right kid there.
Yeah, I love that kid. He's a future captain. His football is, I think he won a state championship. I think his teams won it like 15 out of 16 years, and they won it the last 4 years. He's just, you listen to him, he already sounds like he's like a pro. Everything that he knows everything to say. He's a Michigan man through and through. Eli Owens.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to love him.
Here's looks like Babaloa going at it with 88. And 88's just got to get lower. Got to move his feet. We're bringing Earls off the edge. And again, you got Beigel here. I like Beigel's. I just like he's shown me some things, man. Like how he's punching and playing this guy. And you see that's the same thing I saw from we saw earlier from Palepale, right?
Yeah.
Watch Beigel here, right here, Denny. He's going to take this guard. He's going to punch, play his gap, punch, drive him back, and then come off it and make he's there to make, there's no movement there. Nothing, right? The guard's not getting any movement.
Earls coming off the edge got him there.
Well, yeah, then we got, he can make the play. It's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, I've had this stunt called but if these guys are getting movement, this kid ain't making the play.
Yeah.
So it all has to be, you got to be good here too. Anyway, Beigel has shown me some things. There's guys here that are going to really compete, man. The difference is small, man. Like 97. God, he just shows me a lot of toughness and athleticism. Again, this gets back to the damn, what's the down and distance? 2nd and 9. It just gets back to the same bullshit with showing the stance. I can see it's a freaking run. By the way, they all got flat backs. The tight ends cheat up closer to the line of scrimmage whenever it's a run. But let's see what happens here. 83's blocking, 76 again. Look at 97. What's 97's name, Denny?
What in the blue?
In the blue.
Chibi Unwanu.
Yeah. Yeah, he's look what he's doing to his guy. I mean, this is the stuff you look at.
These are two guys that they have developed. I remember last year when somebody asked Sharon Moore about Ike Iwana, and you like him. I think you've said you think he might even start. He's playing for the Mays, Ike Iwana, 315 pounder down there. And then, he was a walk-on. And then you got Chibi Unwana. He's a senior out of Canton and another walk-on.
Yeah. Anyway, here's 76 and 97 again. Danny, they're all competing, battling to get into who can get into that second team. And I'm seeing both of these guys look how they're both punching and playing on their side of the line of scrimmage. You know, if I'm the offensive line coach, I'm not happy with this guy here. You know, and then Beigel now comes off and makes a play. That's good stuff. He's going to be, you know, you've heard me beat this up, but you've got good players, smart players, tough players, athletic players, and then you just cannot make mental mistakes. Because when you're competing with 3-4 other guys to be to be a second string guy, you know, that's what they're looking at. Who's making mistakes? Flat wall here. What's it down in distance? 3rd and 10. Yeah, no movement, nothing. You know, again, Dave, some of these plays are the offense is at a disadvantage because the defense knows that one of the most important plays in this one of the most important plays off of this play, okay, is quarterback keep off of this. Does this defense even honor it? Yeah, they don't even honor it. Well, they got this guy here. But you follow me? See, they know in this scrimmage that this guy ain't carrying the football because he's on our team. They're not gonna let him run. You know what I mean?
Right.
So some of this stuff is really helps the defense. Anyway, that's it for today. I just little taste. Keep looking at film. Like I had no idea about Beigel, Danny, until I start watching this film. Now, can he rush the quarterback? You know, you want your inside 3 technique, 1 technique. You want those guys that can play double team, play a 320-pound guard, play the gap, and, you know, hopefully come off it like they did and play the inside gap too. You know, that's what you want. When I was coaching, the downside of the big, heavy inside guys is they don't rush the quarterback well. You know what I mean? Often.
Sure.
So if I had a team 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9, I would bring in my little fast guy, take the 300-pounder out. Sometimes I had 2-headed nose guards. You know what I mean? Wink and all these guys have done the same thing. You know, they'll take out. They used to take Mozzie out sometimes. You know, they take out some of the big guys and put another edge rusher in there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because what's the point? You don't need a 300-pounder in there if it's 3rd and 11. You know, get an athletic kid that can beat a guy with speed. So that's what you want to see Beigel. But he showed me he could play the physical stuff. Now can he rush? Can Palepale rush?
He had one great rep, Palepale, of rushing in there. I remember.
Yeah. So there's, you know, a lot of competition there, man, for to get moved up in that depth chart. Yeah.
It's great. It was great. I love it. I like looking at it. I like seeing the different guys. I like you bringing up the different players and them standing out. I mean, I was sitting there watching that spring game, and I watched it back, and you know, I wasn't thinking about Manuel Beigel. No, so
I wasn't either until you start watching the film. But you got to ask yourself, who's he going against?
Yeah.
You know, you always got to say who's the guy on the other side of the ball, because. But you know, they were good players, and they were different players. He did it against different guys too. So anyway, we got good players. We recruited a lot of good ones, and we're getting ready to go here in a little bit, Danny.
Good players, summer phase, things unfolding. Michigan staying in the mix. It all adds up to me, good news. You get that last piece of what's going down in Indy. Get that in behind them. And then it's on to the future. Let's go. Sounds good to me.
Man.
All right, great job, Scar.
All right, Denny, go blue.
There he is, Jim Scarcelli.